going to talk about the Praxis 5205 and 5206. That is the teaching reading exam for the Praxis suite of exams. But if you are taking any teaching reading exam in any state, this webinar is going to help you. So I will be talking about two tests today, the Praxis 5205, which is just elementary education, and the Praxis 5206, which is K-12, all of the grade levels. Now, these tests are very similar, so you're going to see some overlap in both of the tests. I have free resources for you that came with this webinar. As you come in to the chat, let me know if you can hear me okay and see me, and make sure that I am live everywhere. So what I'm going to do now is just make sure I'm live on Facebook, and it looks like I am, and live on YouTube, and it looks like I am. So that is good. All right. So once again, my name is Kathleen Jasper at Kathleen Jasper LLC. We specialize in certification exams for teachers, specifically the Praxis exams. And today we're going over the Praxis Teaching Reading 5205 and 5206. Many teachers have to take this exam even if they're not going to be reading teachers. A lot of states require that all teachers are certified in reading. And so the way they do it is they require you to take an additional test, which can be daunting, but don't worry, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks today on how to pass that. So it looks like people are coming in. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today on a Saturday morning. I know you're probably tired. It is the holidays. The kids are probably crazy. Hopefully many of you start your Thanksgiving vacation to Monday, the 20th. A lot of schools do that. So hopefully you've got a little bit of time to relax, although the holidays are not that relaxing for many of us. But hopefully after we're done here today, you'll feel at ease about your test, all right? So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Now, if you're in the live webinar, you're going to get some offer codes today that go along with this webinar. You've also received a free study guide and the link to join this webinar. If you're watching me live on YouTube or Facebook, there is a link in the description to get the free study guide, download all of that, and then you'll be brought into the list, our email list, and you'll get all of that information. So once this webinar is over, everything I talk about is going to be emailed to you. So you don't have to try to write everything down. Every single thing I talk about today is going to be emailed to you. I also have a colleague in the chat and on Facebook. Her name is Yana, and she will help answer any questions if I'm in the middle of my presentation and don't see your questions. All right. All right. Derek took 7815 yesterday and passed due to Miss Jasper's books. Oh, awesome. Congratulations on passing the 7815. Not an easy exam for sure. All right. So today, teaching reading, elementary 5205 and the K-12 5206, very similar exams. Just to kind of let you know the overlap so that when I'm talking about these two exams, you're not confused. These exams are virtually identical when it comes to the foundational skills of reading. So that's going to be your phonemic awareness, phonological awareness, phonics, fluency. All right. So all of those are foundational skills usually taught in the elementary grades, right? But if you have students who are EL in middle and high school, they might just be learning the language. So they are going to start with those skills as well. So some of them will benefit from this instruction as well. So it just depends. Then as we move into comprehension and writing, and I'm going to show you the blueprints for these tests so you can see exactly what I'm talking about in a second. The 5206 will pull in some middle and high school questions. Now, if you understand the content and the skills that this exam assesses, you're going to be fine whether it's an elementary question, middle school question, or high school question. Today, I'm going to go over a few, and it's going to help you with any reading exam. I see that someone here is for the VCLA, that's the Virginia exam, language arts exam, and that's going to help you. If you're taking the 5002, the English language arts of the elementary ed, this is going to help you. Any reading portion of any exam, this is going to help you. And of course, if you're taking the 5205 and 5206, this is going to help you a lot. All right. So let's get started on taking a look at the blueprints of the two exams. Oh, wait, let me go over one more thing. Sorry. I'm going to share my screen really quickly with you. And I'm just going to go over Wait a second. Share screen. Oh, you guys, talk amongst yourself really quickly. I have to go into my settings and I restarted, and I have to go into my settings and allow screen sharing. So let me just screen share. Hang on one second. Talk amongst yourselves. Screen sharing. There we go. Oh, it's off. Sorry. This is going to be problematic if I try to. Okay. Screen sharing on. Let's make sure this worked. Okay, let me try to share screen again. Hang on. Okay, we fixed it. So that's good there. We are sharing screen. Okay, so today you are going to be working from the free study guide that you got when you signed up for the webinar. Okay, so every time I do a webinar, I give you an abbreviated study guide. It's a few test questions here, and you can see that all of this is broken down for you. Now, this study guide is specific for the 5205. Well, why is that? Well, I haven't finished the 5206 yet. I'm in the middle of working on that. I'm almost done with it. So what I want to make sure that you guys understand is that this is the free study guide, but then there is a paid study guide as well, which is much bigger. Let me take you to the table of contents really quick. And I always like to clear this up because people sometimes think, well, where's the rest of the study guide? Well, the rest of the study guide is in there to be purchased. Okay. You can see that it's broken up by content category. There are 2 practice tests and then even an extra section for the assessment section there. So this is a big book. As you can see, if I just scroll through, you can see there's so much information here for you to work from. And then of course, the free study guide is great too. Our free resources, some people just use our free stuff and they pass. So you just decide whatever you want to do and you can do that. Now, to get the paid stuff, just to let you know, if you click this link in the free study guide, it'll take you, and I have to share a different way here. Maybe I'm still sharing. Let me just make sure. Oh no, I'm not sharing. Sorry guys, there's something going on with my, okay, it's sharing. Let me just check. I'm so sorry. Let me just check really quick to make sure that I am sharing my screen. One more second. Okay. Let's see what's happening here. Nope, I am not sharing screen. Okay, hang on. We got to troubleshoot this because I can't do the webinar without sharing screen. Okay, so let me go back to my settings. I'm so sorry, you guys. Just give me 1 second here. So I'm just going to talk you through this as I try to go through this and see what's going on here. So both exams, I have study guides for one of the exams, the 5205. But what I'm working on is the 5206. And so that's going to help you out a lot, help you out for the specific 5206. Now, I am not done with that yet. I will be done with that soon, probably the middle of December. But if you are trying to get some information now, I would recommend that you buy the 5205 if you need it now, because it'll help you. We're going to go through some 5206 questions today. Someone said in the chat, I feel like there are several versions of the test. That's a really good point, Jeannie. There are several versions of the test. The reason why is because it's a secure test and they are not going to give just one version. Just like if your students are taking one of your one of your exams, if you give all the students the same exam, by lunchtime, they will have shared the exam, right? So what we want to make sure to do is be prepared for any of the questions that you would get on the exam. And so if you're relying on things like exact test questions and stuff like that, it's not going to be good. So what I recommend is that you really understand everything that's going on in the test. And then it doesn't matter what way you are asked, you will be able to, understand those different things. Okay, I'm still trying to get my screen share fixed here. Okay, so we need to add, why is Vimeo not on here? Vimeo. Okay, I might just have to talk to you guys about this screen recording. Hang on. Cancel. Privacy settings. All right, one more second, guys. I'm so sorry. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, what I'm going to do is shoot. I'd hate to. Google Chrome is on. Okay, let's try it again. Let's try one more time. I might have to leave the webinar and come back in. And if I do that, I'm so sorry. Okay. Your browser isn't enabled for sharing. Okay, it looks like I can share by my browser. All right, so we're gonna improvise today. I can't write on the screen, unfortunately, so I can share with my browser. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Really quickly, I'm just gonna pull everything up on my browser here so that you can see it. Okay, so just give me 1 second so that I can pull all of this up. I want to pull up the free study guide. Again, I apologize for these technical difficulties. Okay, here we go. There's one thing, and I'm going to do this again here for the free study guide. It's just like teaching, you guys. You have to improvise. You got to just go with it. One more second. Let me pull up the free study guide. There we go. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to just share on here. Okay, here we go. So let me go to my Google Drive here. All right, so here's the free study guide. This is everything that you have today. I'm actually going to go off of the free study guide and do something a little different. I'm going to be working from this presentation here. And unfortunately, I can't write on the screen, but what I can do is just kind of go through this with you, all right? For some reason, my actual screen sharing when I write on the screen is not working, but that's okay. So today we're gonna go over the phonics, phonological awareness, all that, as you can see here. Don't worry, you are going to get this presentation in the email that I am going to give you as a follow-up. So you do not have this yet, but you will have it once you get the email from us in about an hour after this is over, okay? Now let's hop over to the blueprints for both of these exams. Got to recover from the technical difficulties, you guys. All right, here we go. So let me zoom out. This is the blueprint for the 5205. This is the elementary education. You can see that there are 5 regular content categories. This is the selected response, also a fancy name for multiple choice. And You can see the ways in which it's broken up. You can see that vocabulary and fluency is going to have 21 questions. Comprehension is the biggest portion with 22 questions. Phonological and phonemic awareness, 13 questions. So this is how the 5205 is set up. Then the last portion is going to be assessment and instructional decision making. This is 25% of the overall exam. This is the constructed response. You will have to write to 3 constructed response questions, and you only have 2 hours and 30 minutes total for the test. So there's good news and bad news about this. The good news is if you finish the selected response quickly, you can apply those minutes to your constructed response, right? So that's great. The problem is that you could get lost in this selected response portion and end up with a little time at the end. So just make sure you pace yourself about a minute, no more than a minute and a half per question. Although I do not recommend you sit there timing yourself, looking at the clock. Just move through at a good pace. If something is you're having a hard time with, just grab the answer choice that you think is the best one. You may want to flag it for later or just move on. Be sure to answer every question, okay? Don't leave anything blank. And then move on to the constructed response. Sometimes I get questions of like, oh, can you totally bomb the constructed response and still pass? No, because it's worth 25% of your grade, you've got to give it your all. So I'm going to show you some tricks today for both the 5206 and 5205 for that. Now let's have a look at the 5206. I was in the constructed response section of this a little earlier, so let me just go up here. Okay, so this is right here. Now notice, we have very similar content categories. We have phonological and phonemic awareness. We have phonics and decoding. We have fluency and vocab. We have comprehension of literary and informational text. And we have writing. Just to compare, let's go back to the 5205. Same thing here. Do you see how they're very, very similar? That's why it's okay today if you need the 5206, but I don't have the specific book for that, you can use the 5205 and most likely pass, okay? All right, so let's talk about the 5206. The biggest difference is when we get into the comprehension of literary and informational text in the writing, there are going to be middle and high school questions, and you will probably get a middle and high school question in the constructed response. Now, in my book, and let me just go here to this, in the Praxis Teaching Reading 5205, I actually have a section for assessment. So even though there are 5 content categories and it ends at writing, I actually added a 6th content category that goes over formative, summative, running records, all the different types of reading assessments you would use in a reading class, all the way through from elementary to high school. So you will get that in here. And then, of course, I have an online course where I go through the videos if you need more support there. Or you could just use this free webinar. All right. So let's go back to my presentation. Well, let's go back to this really quickly. Share this tab instead. Okay. So obviously, this is the blueprint. Very important to understand the structure of the test. Then what we want to do is move down here. This is called content topics, but this is what we call in the test biz test specs or test specifications. In here is all the good language you're going to want to take a look at. This is in the correct answer choices. This also outlines everything that's fair game for the test makers to test you on. Anything in here is fair game. Now, I hear people say, well, I studied and nothing in the book was on the exam. That is impossible because we make sure we cover everything here. What you may be seeing is a question structured differently. We have no idea of the way in which they're going to ask these questions. That's why it's important that you are familiar with every single one of these skills. Now, in my books, I turn each one of these things into a heading. So this is a heading inside the book, and then I fill it with information. This is a heading inside the book, and I fill it with information. And then I make sure the practice test questions cover all of these specs. You can do the same thing on your own if you want to save money. You can throw this stuff into Google and have a look and study that way. Or you can get a study guide and just make sure whatever study guide you get, obviously I recommend mine, but if you already purchased one, just make sure that all of this is covered here, okay? Then another thing I like about this document, and we will link up this document in the follow-up email that comes out, are these discussion questions. These are critical thinking questions about the topics on the exam. And the reason why I like these is because rather than just trying to memorize multiple choice questions, this is going to help you think more critically about these concepts and allow you to answer these questions in different ways. So no matter how you're asked, you can navigate the questions on the exam. Now, you are going to have ones that just stump you. It's okay. You need about a 70% correct to be in the safe zone on this exam. That's a C. That's a low C. So, it's okay if you miss a couple of questions. Now, you can see that there are discussion questions after each section. Here we have comprehension of literary and informational text. And you can see there are all the discussions here. Now, they have specific words in these discussion questions. Reading Rope by Scarborough. This is a strand, a strategy. Phases of reading development. There are all these specific things. If you look at what is the not so simple view of writing? You may want to look up the not so simple view of writing. I'm including all of this in my new book, but if you go in here, check it out, do a deep dive in this document. Of course, then as we scroll down, we have test questions. Look at the structure. These are basically scenario type questions. You're going to be asked, to look at a scenario and then make the best possible choice. We're going to go over a few of those today. And then as you scroll down through here, there will be a constructed response question, which there's the rubric for it. They tell you what a response of 3 looks like. This is where we want to shoot for a score of 3 on each constructed response, but you might get a 2 on one. That's okay. And then a sample prompt here. Now I'm going to go through this in my presentation. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop back over to Vimeo, and I am going to make sure we're all doing okay. All right. So sorry about the technical difficulties, but we're going to make it work, you guys. Okay. Questions seem confusing and I need more time for the CR. Okay, Caroline, no problem. We're going to talk about the constructed response today. If you are able to open up the can't maybe use right on it. Yes, I know, but I use Apple, so it's going to be hard to do that. Derek is talking about my 5205 constructed response on YouTube. I have a ton of 5205 videos. The teaching reading program that we have is our most popular, so I do a lot of videos on that, okay? I have the book, What Pages We'll Be Working On From Today. I'm actually going to work separately from the book. I'm going to work from a quick presentation because I do have some people in here for 5206. And so you did get a free study guide with this, but I'm going to go rogue a little bit and do a couple of questions that I just came up with. So these are some additional questions, and you will get these sent to you at the end of this session. So let's hop over, shall we, to my, let's see here. Yep. Okay. So again, I can't write on the screen at the moment, but we can talk about this together. Okay. So right now we're going to look at content category 1, which is going to be phonemic and phonological awareness. These are the foundational skills of reading, and they are typically, and let me zoom in. Okay, there we go. That's better. They are typically, and again, you're going to get this presentation, they are typically done at the elementary level. All right. But again, I said that if you are working with ELs, English learners, or students whose first language is not English, then you are still going to be working on some of these skills here. Okay. All right. So the way I like to think about it is phonological awareness encompasses a lot of skills, okay? It's going to be onset and rhyme, breaking words up into syllables and all of that, but it has to do with the sounds only in words. If you take away nothing from this presentation, I want you to understand the difference between these two skills, phonological and phonemic awareness, and phonics, because that will help you with like 15 questions on the exam, okay? So phonological awareness, sounds only. So if I say something like, break the word peanut into 2 syllables, you would go, peanut. You don't have to see the word peanut to do it, but you can hear the segmented sounds in the words, okay? I might say, and let me see if I have this. I might say, break the word stick up into onset and rhyme. Well, the onset is the consonant cluster at the beginning of the word, st. And the rhyme is ick, st, ick. Notice that it's chunks of the word, okay? That's phonological awareness, and you can do it in a bunch of different ways. But remember, it is sounds only. Phonemic awareness is also sounds only. Both of these two skills have to do with listening and manipulating sounds orally, okay? We are not looking at the words. You can do these two skills in the dark, okay? You don't need the lights on. You don't need to see the word, okay? But phonemic awareness is more nuanced. Phonemic awareness is about individual sounds in words. So before I use the example of the word stick, breaking it up by onset and rhyme, st, ick. That's phonological awareness. But if I said break the word stick up into its individual sounds, you would go st, ick. Notice that I have to really think about each individual sounds. Now, I used to often talk about phonological awareness as being a more complex skill. And I kind of misspoke on that. And it was brought up to me from some reading coaches who I consider colleagues. And when they give me feedback, I take it very seriously. They said, actually, phonemic awareness is more nuanced because they have to think about the individual sounds, where phonological awareness is groups of sounds in the words. Now, on the exam, you're not going to be asked that kind of specific question, but I just want to clarify here. Phonological awareness encompasses many skills, onset and rhyme, syllables, beginning sounds, blends, things like that. But phonemic awareness is much more nuanced for the learner because they have to go into each individual sound. Now, I'm going to go over test questions that talk about this, but I want you to understand that phonological awareness, phonemic awareness can be done in the dark, sounds only. When you have to look at the word, that's when we get to phonics, letter, sound, correspondence. The letters you actually have to look at. So for example, the letter C in the words cat, because it are cut or caught and cable make a k sound. How do we know that? Well, we know from being in school for a long time that when the C is followed by an A, U, O, or an A, U, or O, it makes a k sound, right? But we also know that when a C is followed by an E, I, or Y, it makes a S sound, right? As in city, cycle, cell. Well, how do we know that? Well, we know the rules of phonics. We know the decoding rules. There are codes inside these words here, right? In cell, the letter C is followed by an E. In the word receive, the letter C is followed by an E. We know that that makes a sound. The C makes an S sound. In cat, we know the C makes a K sound. That is the codes inside of the words. And so with phonics, I have to see the word, letter, sound, correspondence. When I see the letter, I can figure out what sound it makes, okay? Now, I need to have phonemic awareness and phonological awareness before I can have phonics. I need to understand sounds in words before I can start to assign letters to those sounds. But these are still foundational skills of reading, okay? All right, so let's have a look at what a question might look like on the exam. Now, again, I'm working away from the free study guide here. I got these I made some new questions I wanted to test out with you guys. So these are additional questions that you will get in the follow-up email. If you are watching this webinar in the future, you've already received it, okay? And it is November 18th, 2023. So if you're watching it anytime after that, you've already received this. All right, so we have what I like to do first, you know me, I like to go through the answer choices first, okay? So let's have a look at A. Have students highlight unfamiliar words in the text and use context clues to figure them out. Okay, I like context clues. Highlighting is okay. I don't hate this answer choice. I don't love it. I'm going to keep it. Have students focus on letter-sound relationships in previously taught words. Okay, let's have a look at this answer choice here. What this is explaining is recursive phonics instruction, a good word on this exam, whether it's the 5206 or the 5205. What does that mean? Well, phonics instruction is letter sound relationships. And talking about previously taught words means that it's recursive. And why is that important? Well, when we teach phonics, we have to go back and review skills. We use systematic, explicit instruction, which means we are really modeling what we want students to do. We are going through it in a systematic manner. We are going back, circling back to old skills and applying them to new skills in a recursive manner. And that's what B is talking about here. So B has all the good words in it, letter sound relationships, previously taught words. That leads me to recursive. I love B. Let's go to C. Have students break words apart by affixes so that the words are easier to pronounce. All right. Breaking words apart by affixes is good, but making them easier to pronounce, typically making things easier is a bad word on the exam. I'm not saying that it's always bad, but I would stay away from C. And D, have students orally manipulate onset and rhyme of single syllable words. All right, so what's going on in these answer choices here? Well, I have used context clues to figure out words. This is a vocabulary skill. I have letter sound relationships, which is a phonics skill. I have break words apart by affixes. This is a morphology skill. And then I have orally manipulate. This is a phonological awareness skill. So I have 4 different skills going on here. My favorite one is this one because of the letter sound relationships and previously taught. It indicates recursive. Let's have a look at the question. A teacher wants to be sure she is reinforcing phonics maintenance. Now, the test question is always going to lead you to some clues most of the time, okay? First of all, phonics. Well, I'm not going to be choosing D. Onset and rhyme orally manipulated, that's phonological awareness. That's out, okay? Having students break apart words by affixes so they are easier to pronounce. This could also be considered phonological awareness because we're talking about orally. So I don't love C. Now look at here, letter sound relationships, that is literally the definition of phonics, and maintenance, previously taught words. That's the recursive part. B is the answer here. And notice that I got to it before I even read the question. Now, obviously, I know a lot more about this subject. I write books on it. I was a teacher for a long time. You may just be starting out, but you can look at these things in a way so that you understand what skills they're talking about here. All right, and that will help you. Let's have a look at another one. All right, so I can see through A, B, C, and D, we've got some skills here. Change the H in house to an M, say play, say it again without the L. We got a bunch of things going on here. Let's read the question. Which of the following phonemic awareness skill is most complex? Okay. And usually acquired last by most students. Now, this is one of the harder things on this exam that happens, okay? They will ask you kind of a progression of skills. Now, in my book, I have the continuum for both phonological and phonemic awareness, so you can see which skills come first and which skills come last and all of that. But here's a good rule of thumb. Typically, students hear the first and last sounds in words. For example, in the word sun, students often hear the s and the n in the word before they hear the in the word. Medial sounds inside words are much harder to manipulate or, figure out than the beginning and endings. It's just kind of the way it is. It kind of the beginning and endings are kind of like bookends, right? So if we're looking for the most complex, we want to be the one that's not just the beginning or the ending sound. So you can see here, change the H in house to an M. That's a beginning sound word, a beginning sound in the word. Changing out, that means this is going to be a substitution activity, which is phoneme manipulation, which is high level. Manipulating the sounds in words, changing them out is a pretty good high level. So change the H in house to an M, but it's the beginning sound, right? So it's pretty tough, but not as tough as the middle. Say play, say it again without the L. Okay, now we're talking about middle sounds here, or they call them medial sounds. So in this case, I'm going to delete the L in play. B is a more complex skill than A, so B is in the running. Say peanut, Now say it again without the P. They would say nut. That's relatively easy because you're just breaking the word apart between two syllables, two chunks, okay? And that is not as complex as the manipulating the medial sounds in words. And D, what word is made up when the Z and are combined? They would say zoom. That is onset and rhyme and phonological awareness. The only one where we're manipulating medial sounds is B, and it's phonemic awareness. And remember what I said, phonemic awareness is much more nuanced than phonological awareness. And therefore, B is going to be the best answer. Now, I know you might be saying, oh my God, how am I supposed to know all this? It's okay. I do lots of videos on this. And I also have an online course that breaks this down. And I have the study guide that breaks it down. So just keep thinking about that. The phonological awareness and phonemic awareness continuum is how students acquire these skills. And on the continuum, medial sounds, middle sounds are tougher to manipulate than ending sounds. Therefore, B is the most complex. All right, let's have a look at another one. So I can see in the question, I have phoneme segmentation skills. Okay, so we're talking about phonemic awareness. So which of the following instructional strategies is most effective to reinforce? That's another key word here, reinforce students' phoneme segmentation. So that means I'm going to segment the word into individual sounds. Remember what I said about stick. If it's phonological awareness, I might do onset and rhyme, st, ick, like in answer A here. Blend the BL onset with the ac rhyme to make black. That's not phoneme segmentation. That's phonological awareness, okay? B, have students say a word and then delete the beginning sound. Okay, that's a deletion exercise. And it is definitely, it's a manipulation exercise. It's definitely high level, but we're not segmenting. Segmenting is taking out the individual sounds. So for example, b, o, a, k. That's segmenting each individual sound by phonemes. C, have students count the number of individual sounds in a word. Okay, now that sounds like a segmentation skill because I would have to go b, o, a, k, 4 sounds. I have to segment out each one in order to count it. And here's the key. Individual sounds. What are phonemes? They are the individual sounds in words. That's why phonemic awareness is manipulating individual sounds in words. And then have students omit the E sound when looking at CVCE words. This is a phonics skill. I go over it in the book. Consonant, vowel, consonant, silent E. So a word like make, the A is long, the E is silent. That's a phonics skill. We're talking about phonemic awareness here, phoneme segmentation. The best answer is C. All right, let's have, now again, we're still on the foundational skills. We're going to move into the more complex skills of middle and high school in just a minute. I believe it's the next slide, 2 more slides. Okay, so let's have a look at this. I've got some cards here with letters on it, and then I have the answer choices here. Well, let's try to narrow this down without ever looking at the question, see what we can do, okay? So you can see I have phonemic awareness and phonological awareness, A and C. Well, phonemic awareness and phonological awareness, I don't need to see letters, do I? Because it's all about sounds, auditorily and orally. So A and C are probably not my right answer. Phonics, this looks like a phonics thing because I'm working with letters, and phonics is about spelling, letter-sound correspondence. And context clues is about vocab, where you use context clues in the text to figure out a word you don't know. So I'm zeroing in on B right away. Let's read the question. A teacher gives students pieces of papers with letters on them. The teacher asks students to use the letter to build words. Which of the following skills? This is phonics. I'm going to take maybe the R and the I and the P to make rip. I'm going to do the B, the I, and the T to make bit. And you can even make nonsense words just because you're using letter sounds correspondence. We use a lot of nonsense words when we're doing this because we want to really work on that letter sound correspondence skill. Right away, this is phonics. Anything with writing is phonics. Anything that's auditory or oral is phonemic awareness or phonological awareness. And again, context clues is vocab. This is why it pays to understand the skills. All right, let's have a look at another one. Now, right away, I'm going to read the answer choices first, but something that stands out to me is phoneme-grapheme correspondence. Phoneme, sounds, grapheme, letter, correspondence. Remember, phonics is letter-sound correspondence. Sometimes it'll be referred to as letter-sound correspondence, and sometimes it'll be referred to in a fancier manner, phoneme-grapheme correspondence. Phoneme are the individual sounds in words. Graphs are the letters, phoneme-grapheme correspondence. All right, so let's look at the answer choices. A, have students point to each letter in the words and name the letters. That's not correspondence with the sound. That's just naming the letters, okay? They do have a similar sound to the name, but I don't love A. B, have students say each individual sound in the word. Okay, well, that is phonemic awareness, and they don't need the writing or the grapheme to do that. So B is out. C, present students with words they already know and then analyze the letter-sound relationships and patterns. Notice, letter-sound relationships, phoneme-grapheme correspondence. That's essentially the same thing. C is looking good, and with words they already know. This brings me back to the recursive approach of teaching phonics. Remember, I told you, recursive, systematic, and explicit phonics instruction is the key. Okay, so make sure you know that. And then D, have students use connected text strategies to figure out unfamiliar words. C is the best one here because it corresponds, letter-sound relationships with phoneme-grapheme correspondence. Let's read the whole question. A teacher is working on phoneme-grapheme correspondence. Which of the following would be most effective? Well, it's most effective because we're talking about letter-sound correspondence, and it has that recursive element to it. C is the best answer. All right, now let's get into some comprehension. Okay, now we're going to talk about comprehension skills, and we're going to bring it up a few grade levels. We're going to be in middle and high school now. Okay, so this is a big question, and I always want you guys to work backwards when you get these questions. Now, things are going to stand out to you. Who authored the piece? Where did the information come from? Is there a list of references? Okay, and then I'm going to move down here. Which of the following essential research skills is the teacher likely working on? All right, so right away, I don't have to get into this here. I can look at this here and be like, oh, okay, who authored the piece? Where did the information come from? Is there a list of references? This is the key. Is there a list of references? Which of the following essential research skills is the teacher likely working on? Well, it's C. Is the source reliable? Now, in the comprehension section and in the writing section of both of these books, whether you're doing elementary or the K-12, 5206, the teaching students how to read critically through comprehension and their research skills is going to come up because we start them early. Even in 4th and 5th grade, they're doing mini research projects. If you're a social studies teacher, science teacher, you're doing this with your kids for sure. And then of course in middle and high, they're doing much more complex research papers. Why do we start them young on these things? Because we have so much information out in the world today, we need to make sure we show students which is reliable and which is unreliable information. So who authored the piece and what are their credentials? Is it a scientist who wrote the piece about climate change, or is it someone else who does not have a degree in science, okay? Or is it someone who understands foreign policy? Maybe we're reading something on foreign policy. Is the person credentialed? Doesn't mean that we shouldn't look at all different types of writing and analyze it. In fact, I recommend you bring in different pieces of writing and have students see which one's reliable, which one isn't, which one's an opinion, which one's based in fact. That's a great exercise. But if we're looking at their credentials, we're trying to figure out if this person is reliable. Where did the information come from? Is it a blog? Red flag for unreliable information. Now, I have a blog. It has reliable information. I talk about what I'm talking to you about today, reading strategies, things like that. However, my blog is a lot different than my dissertation, which is in an academic journal, which is peer reviewed, right? Blogs are great. Academic journals for research writing is much better. And then is there a list of references? This should stand out. Is there a bibliography? When there's a bibliography, it's more reliable. At the end of all of my books, I have several pages of a bibliography so people know I'm not just making this stuff up. Like, I'm using reputable resources to write the information. So this is determining if the source is reliable. Author's point of view, that's not really, I mean, you might be tempted to pick that, but no. Identifying the text structure. What's text structure? Text structure is whether it's opinionated, expository, cause and effect, things like that. You might be able to discern a little bit by whether it's an academic journal or a blog, right? A blog's going to be more probably persuasive. I mean, unless it's an informational blog. But the other two questions don't determine the text structure. And then to determine if the source is a primary source. Primary sources are sources that come straight from the person. So diaries, speeches, firsthand accounts, right? Interviews with the person who lived the experience. Secondary sources are textbooks, informational pieces, pamphlets. They can be nonfiction, but they're still a secondary source, right? A news broadcast about someone who was there, right? That's secondary. So that's not really what we're asking here. This is about it being reliable. All right. Let's have a look at this one here. So you're going to have questions like this, which two, or choose all that apply. And those can be tough. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the answer choices here. Defining unfamiliar vocabulary, strengthening comprehension, using visuals, increasing analytical skills, and decoding unfamiliar words. Okay, just a quick tip. And again, I'm in tests all the time, so I see patterns. But it says choose two. So I'm going to need two kind of related. Well, comprehension and analytical skills are related. Why? Because comprehension is a high-level skill. You're not just identifying, you're not just understanding, you are drawing pictures in your mind, you're predicting, you're analyzing, you're evaluating the situation, you're coming up with reasoning, you're questioning. So B and D are related. And if it says choose two, I'm going to zero in on B and D right now, but I don't know. I got to read the question. Okay. So it says which two. So let's read here. A middle school science teacher is helping her students take the headings in the textbook and turn them into questions. Right away, the term questions is going to lead me to comprehension and analytical skills. Because when we turn things into questions, when we use questioning techniques, it's not just identifying or comparing and contrasting. You are actually generating questions, which is a high-level skill. She has students work in pairs and read the chunks of the tests and answer the questions they've generated. They have generated the questions. That is an analytical skill, and that is a comprehension skill. Unfamiliar vocabulary is not hit here. Visuals says nothing about visuals, and decoding unfamiliar words, decoding is phonics. We're talking about comprehension here. So a couple things are happening when I do this. Number one, I'm being strategic. I see comprehension and analytical skills are related, and it says choose two. Those might be my correct answers. Then I have the word questions, using questioning techniques in here. I know that's comprehension and analytical skills. And then if I look at all the things here, I can see different skills. Decoding is phonics, not what we're talking about here. Using visuals was not mentioned. And defining unfamiliar vocabulary, this is not a vocabulary exercise. So understanding the skills, a little bit of strategy, a little bit of content, you're going to do better on the exam. All right. Now, I'm choosing this one. This has a ton of information in it, because I want to show you a trick. So you're going to get questions like this, where there's a big, long question and then a sample of writing, and you're like, oh my God, I got to read this whole question. And some of you are concerned about time. Go right to the answer choices here. All right. Now we can see that this is student writing. I see the word writing here. I see writing samples. Okay. So I know this is going to be a writing question. Let's have a look at the answer choices. A, Lulu is developing the central idea of writing and using details to support the thesis. All right, this is a skill we want students to have. So A is good. I like it. I'm going to keep it. B, Lulu is developing reader interest as she improves her writing skills. Okay, reader interest is important, but it's not a foundational principle of writing, which stands out to me here in this objective. So I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I still like A better. C, Lulu is using grammar and mechanics appropriately. Okay. Just by looking at these samples here, I can see that we're going far beyond grammar and mechanics. We didn't just line edit this and change it. We have a significantly different thing going on here. Okay. So, and grammar and mechanics is important, but when we're talking about writing instruction, we're worried more about content, ideas, organization, and most importantly, the intended audience. D, adapting her writing as she considers the intended audience. All right. When you're looking at writing questions, purpose and audience are very, very important. If you see the words purpose, like the writing purpose or the author's purpose, and then the intended audience, zero in, it's most likely the correct answer. So D stands out to me. Now, just to be sure, I'm going to read the question. Obviously, she's a 10th grade student learning about farming methods of indigenous people in North America. Again, they're going to give you all this blah, blah, blah. Okay. I don't care. Go to the objective. This is italicized. The student will apply the foundational principle of effective writing. Well, what is the foundational principle of effective writing? Understanding your audience. Who are you writing to? So here's the writing samples. I can see the check for this because you'll see this a lot. We, I. This is all written in first person, and it's relatively short. It looks pretty simple. As I go to sample 2, I can see it's turned to third person, and you've got much more complex vocabulary. Looks like she has fixed her writing sample to be a audience of perhaps a scientific community, a archaeological community, more sophisticated writing here. So D is going to be the best answer. But again, don't get all turned around in here. Go to your answer choices, and if you see audience and purpose, that's typically the right answer. But certainly check. Don't just, I have done practice tests where I don't ever read the questions and I just go through and do the answer choices and I usually pass. But I don't recommend that for you. It's just a thing I try sometimes. But, you've got this piece here. You've got your answer choices. You don't have to get turned around in these questions. Be strategic. All right. All right, I'm going to just stop sharing really quickly and just take some questions, and then we're going to work on the constructed response. Okay. Let's see here. Specifically, the one on YouTube, if I do. Okay, looks like, what pages will be working from now? Okay, doesn't look like we have any questions. You guys have been just listening to my presentation. Okay, let's go over the constructed response. The first constructed response we are going to do is elementary. So you will have that on the 5206 as well. You're going to have some elementary, and then we're going to jump to a high school one. But the high school one will help my elementary people too, because you might get a middle school. Your exam is K6, so you might get a middle school scenario as well. So let's make sure we hit it all, okay? So let me share screen one more time. Where am I? Let's go here. Okay, perfect. All right, so here's a sample constructed response. It will look like this. Remember, you're going to have 3, and they will be pulled from all the content categories on the exam. So it'll be pulled from it might be a phonemic awareness, phonological awareness question. It could be a phonics question. It could be a vocab fluency question, and it could be a writing or a comprehension question. So just make sure because it's fair game. Remember what I said about fair game. All right, so it's always going to have the same thing here, directions. The suggested time is 10 minutes. Okay, don't worry about these directions. Where I want you to go is right here. First things first, always work backwards on the constructed response. Figure out what your task is. Before you start reading, you would tell your students the same thing. Set the purpose for reading. Otherwise, you're going to read the scenario, you're going to read the task, and then you're going to go back up and read the scenario. Start with the task first, okay? So our task is identify 2 strategies Mr. Payton can use to increase students, and this is going to be a comprehension question. So we're trying to increase comprehension skills. So right away, I don't even have to read this thing. I can figure out, well, what are my strategies for comprehension? Questioning techniques, read aloud, think alouds, working on metacognition, turning the headings into questions. We just had a question on that. Any kind of comprehension, predicting, summarizing, all of those are comprehension. Find 2 that you're good at and you can talk to and choose that regardless of what the scenario is. We want comprehension strategies. Figure out the 2 you can write to the best, okay? And then We want to make sure we provide a rationale for each strategy. This is typical on this exam. They'll do this. What's a rationale? The reason why you're choosing it. Why is it good? So the way I'm going to structure this first constructed response is my first paragraph is going to be my strategy number 1, explaining it, and then why it's good, my rationale. So I'm going to hit both bullets in paragraph 1, and then I'm going to hit both bullets in paragraph 2 because it's asking me to identify 2 strategies. All right. So my 2 strategies, because these are the 2 that I'm most comfortable with, is increasing metacognition through read aloud, think aloud. And the other one is to use a graphic organizer to generate questions. Those are comprehension strategies. You could do any comprehension strategy. All right. So let's have a look at how this is structured now. All right. I go right into it. The first strategy Mr. Payton can use to help his students comprehend text is read aloud, think aloud to increase metacognition. All right. So read aloud, think aloud, metacognition, all connected to comprehension. So that shows my knowledge. I am telling the person grading my essay, I know what I'm talking about. Give me a 3. Okay. Then I explain what it is. Just a brief thing. He and his students can read the text together. Mr. Payton can, here's a good word, model his thinking process. Words like explicit instruction, modeling, systematic, recursive. These are all good words to use in your writing. They're the good words in the answer choices on the exam, and they're good words to use in your writing. Then I do this thing here. For example, this lets my grader know that I am about to support what I'm saying with a specific detail, which will increase your score. So what I do is I explain a little bit about what read aloud, think aloud is, and then I say, for example, when reading aloud, Mr. Payton can model how he summarizes, predicts, and processes the story. Those are all comprehension skills. And then I get more specific. He can say, that's interesting. I wonder why the main character acted like that. Asking questions out loud. This is all part of read aloud, think aloud. Okay. Now I get into the rationale. This strategy of reading and thinking aloud helps students understand the processes in their brain and helps them understand text. There's my rationale. Read aloud, think aloud is one of the most effective ways to increase metacognition and essential skill for reading comprehension. So what did I do here? I picked the strategy. I explained the strategy. I got specific in how he can use it. Then I rationalized why. Well, it strengthens metacognition, which is essential for comprehension. Boom. Strategy number 1 and the rationale is done. Let's go to the second one. The next strategy he can use to comprehend text is question generation. I already know that for comprehension, question generation, remember the analytical skills helps increase comprehension. So there's my second strategy. Then I get more specific. Well, how would he do this? He can use a KWL chart. KWL chart is in my book, but it's a what do you know, what do you want to know, and what did you learn? The K is for the background knowledge. What do you already know about what we are about to read? For example, students can fill out the K part of the KWL chart. What do we already know about a topic? This will activate background knowledge and schema, which is a key to understanding the text. So notice what I did there. I said he can use question generation, broad. Then I get more specific in a KWL chart, graphic organizer, a little bit more specific. And then I get very specific, for example, and then I break it down, the piece that is activating the background knowledge. Then I go a little further, the W part, what do we want to know? Generate questions for that. And the L part, what did we learn? That's the summarization at the end. And then the rationale. This will help them summarize the text and reflect on important information they acquired while reading. There's my rationale. Second bullet, done. All right. This would be a 3. Now, you may not be able to write this much. All you have to do is name the main strategy, then maybe give a for example, little more specific about the activity, and then explain why it's important. You can still get a 3 with like 4 sentences in each paragraph. You don't have to go this big. All right. All right. Let's have a look at the second one. High school English. Again, I'm going right here. Task first. Describe one piece of literature that the teachers could use to support the students' development as readers and provide a rationale. Oh, there's a little dot there. I got to get rid of that dot. Provide a rationale for why. Okay. So one piece of literature and why am I using it? Why is it important? Second one, Briefly describe one example of how the teacher can integrate technology to support this focus on reading. Okay, so 2 paragraphs here. First one is going to be, what kind of literature am I going to use and why? Second paragraph, what kind of technology can I implement in this process? This could be in middle school. This could also be an elementary question. You could get this adapted to elementary. Let's have a look at the scenario here. A high school English language arts teacher decides to further the students' development as readers by using authentic literacy materials that include a technology component. Notice I didn't even have to read that scenario. I could have just read here, but we definitely want to read it, but I'm just telling you, like, first. All right, so, and this is from the Praxis 5206 study companion. This is not my question. So, all right, one piece of literature. Well, you could do poetry. You could do trade books. You could do the textbook. You could do novels. You could do graphic novels. You could do all kinds of things here. Go with what you are good at, right? If you're a literary text person, talk about stories, maybe comparing 2 texts. If you might want to introduce some poetry, you might be a social studies person, you want to do some nonfiction text, whatever it is. It doesn't say you have to choose the right piece of literature. It just says describe one. So I'm going to use trade books in mine. Trade books are an extension of information. So let's just say we're reading about World War II in social studies class. You can find a trade book that kind of talks just about World War II. It'll have lots of pictures in it. It'll have some extra things in it, and it'll help reinforce what we're learning about, okay? And then to integrate technology, I'm going to use some like book creation or some sort of software creation. Now, again, you might say, well, my school doesn't have that. It doesn't matter. This is a hypothetical situation. You can have the kids go to the moon if you want to. You just have to rationalize it. So let's have a look of what I picked. It's going to be 2 paragraphs. First one's going to be, what kind of literature can we use and why? And the second is piece of technology. Let's go down. The teacher could use trade books to support students' development as readers. Then I tell you what trade books are. Trade books are reading materials from students' everyday lives and include maps, biographies, fiction, poetry, historical fiction, and graphic novels. Incorporating trade books over various genres, abilities, blah, 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 helps them become more proficient readers. There's my rationale. You don't have to make it that fancy. You could just say incorporating trade books will reinforce important reading skills. That's it. And then students can choose what they read based on their ability interest. Then I have one more rationale. This will increase their motivation to read, which is also essential. Okay, so that's done. Next, how am I going to integrate technology? Well, we can create digital stories based on the trade books. Digital stories. What does that mean? I don't know. There are lots of pieces of software out there to do it. You could just have them use a PowerPoint to do a digital story. You could have them make a website. You could do a web quest, which is kind of lame, or a wiki. No offense to those using it, but kids have TikTok on their phones. They got video software on their phones. Like, have them use it, right? They can use Canva. You don't even have to get that specific. I just say we want to create some digital stories based on the trade book. So now we're reading and then we're going to write. This can involve using software or apps. Do I say the app? No, I just say software or apps for video editing, animation, or digital storytelling. You don't have to name the specific app. You're just talking about an opportunity to implement technology. This approach not only enhances comprehension, but also fosters creativity and digital literacy. Digital literacy, good word. Now, I gave a little rationale at the end of this, even though I wasn't asked to do so. So I have the type of book that I'm going to use, or the type of literature I'm going to use, and the rationale. And then I have the type of technology I'm going to use and the rationale. Be sure to break these things up into paragraphs so that you keep them focused. Okay? All right. Well, I am still on time, even with our technical glitch. Thank you so much for your patience today, you guys, even though we had a little bit of a technical glitch. Okay. People are asking, do the study guides go over these strategies so we can apply them to our construction response? I'm not familiar a lot with the strategies per se. All right, Derek, the book does have strategies. I also have an online course that is more in depth because I'm talking to you in the online course and I'm going through everything. But for sure, the book goes through it. Okay. And you're going to get an offer code. Now, we have an early bird Black Friday sale going on right now. Black Friday is our biggest sale of the year. We do it every year and it's 50% off. It starts on Thursday night about 9 o'clock after we've all eaten turkey. And it'll go through Sunday. It's basically Friday through Sunday. All right. It's 50% off, but we're running a special right now using the offer code early bird, and you can get in early and buy your stuff now if you want to. So even if you're taking the 5206, I recommend getting the 5205 book, even though I'm not done with the 5206, because it's like half off. It's definitely worth it, you know? So definitely check that out. And Yana should be posting those into the, I don't see Yana in here. I wonder if she's in here. I don't see Yana in here. So I'm going to post it here. Early bird. That's the offer code. All right. Oh, yes, Yana's in there. I'm sorry, Yana. I see you in there. I couldn't see your name. I thought maybe you were having technical difficulties. Yana is in there. Okay. Yes, she is the best, Connie. I love Yana. She makes my life a lot easier. Okay. Can anyone suggest ways to study for the constructed response questions? Well, I have an online course where we go through that, but I also have a full playlist on YouTube. Let me go ahead and share screen and show you what's up with that. So let me go to YouTube, share. Okay, so you can see that I have latest videos and all of that. I would definitely check out, where's my reading? Teaching reading right here, playlist. And in that playlist, I have lots of constructed response questions. Now, I also have a playlist for constructed response only, and we'll link that up in the email that goes out. I have it here, how to write a constructed response. So, you know what? I'm going to copy this link and save it so I can give it to Yana. But this particular playlist, it has, this is going to play here. Hang on. Pause. This constructed response section goes through all different types of constructed responses, but it doesn't matter. It's good to watch all different types because the application is very similar. So definitely check out that playlist. Also, we went through it on this webinar. And so you have the strategy, or you can get the online course or the book. Okay. Right now, everything is 50% off. So go to the website and just buy 50% off. If you're watching this in the future after November 27th, sorry, it's not 50% off, but we have other offer codes at that time. What do your online courses go over, the ones for purchase? Okay. The online course, let me just show you what an online course looks like. Hang on. Let me pull it up. That way you guys can see what the teaching reading online course goes over. Let me just pull it up before there we go. All right, let me share screen real quick. Okay, so this is what the online course looks like. So you can see all of the information here. It's a ton of stuff. If you hit start course, you get the full book. So you can download the digital study guide here. It is the full book. All right. I have a little video on how to use the course effectively. I just go through that. So then this is how it goes. Content category 1, I go through all the skills in content category 1, more specifically, right? Then there's a little quiz. These are the 10 problems after each content category. In the book, I have 10 questions. This is not the practice test. This is separate from the practice test. I have 10 questions that go over just what's covered in that content category. So you can kind of get to know what those questions are going to be like. And then in the quiz video, I go over those 10 questions and kind of dig in. Why is this correct? Why is this incorrect? Blah, blah, blah. And I do that for every single content category. All right. Then we have let's see here. I have an extra content category. This is in the book as well. This is the assessment part. I go through all the different assessments. There are tons when it comes to reading. Then there's a little assessment quiz, and I simulate this. So it's kind of like what it looks like on test day, even though we don't have the same software as Praxis, but you can see there are, answer explanations and all of that. And then I explain it. I go through this and talk about all the different questions and why they're wrong. And then I go into the constructed response and I walk you through this whole thing. And I talk about the constructed response in the book. So it's the reason why. One of the things that's most important that I don't think people understand, for you to do well on the constructed response, you have to have an understanding of all the other content categories. You're going to be asked questions on comprehension, phonological awareness, phonemic awareness. If you don't understand those concepts, you can't write to the constructed response. So I wouldn't think of it as two separate tasks. I would think of it as one big task. We have to understand the content, and that's what the online course does. And it's 50% off right now. Now, if you want, let's just see here. She just put up a couple of links to things, but if you go to KathleenJasper.com let's share this. If you go to KathleenJasper.com under our programs, you'll see teaching reading. And then here is the information. Now remember, the course comes with the book. Don't buy the book and the course. If you buy the course, you get it all. The book, you can just get the book. That's fine too. And if you click the book, you can go out to Amazon and buy the physical copy. However, we are not running a sale on Amazon. We can't. They won't allow me. I have to pull my books down, reprice them, and put them back up. And it's like a whole thing. And they could reject the book and then the book is not up. It's a whole thing. I just don't change prices on Amazon. The digital download is 50% off. So if you want the book on the cheap, use the early bird discount and get it. If you want the physical copy, you're going to have to pay full price. We can't do discounts on Amazon. But if you want the online course, that's half off right now too. So grab that. All right. Okay. Let me check what's going on here. Stop sharing. Here we go. What is the difference between the online version and the paper version? No difference whatsoever. There is no difference. So if you buy the physical version on Amazon or the digital, you are getting the exact same book. All right. I do have a quick ask. For those of you who have purchased my 5001, the brand new edition, I'm going to send it out in the email. I would love it if you could review the book on Amazon. We have hardly any reviews on Amazon. So if you found that book helpful, you can go to Amazon and review the 5001 book. That would be amazing. But if you don't feel like it, that's fine too. But we rely a lot on reviews. So if you had a good experience with my new 5001 new edition, you can review it on Amazon. And if you bought the digital copy, you can still review it on Amazon because it's the same exact content. All right. I see somebody's trying to use a discount code on Amazon. We cannot give discounts on Amazon. So the physical copies are the same full price. But if you want the digital copy, you can get that half off. Okay. I have to say, I love your office. Thanks. My husband and I built that together. It's got floating shelves and I like it too. Thank you so much for noticing. All right, guys. So I'm a little bit over, but considering the technical difficulties, I think we did really well today, you guys. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. And I'm trying to think, follow me on TikTok. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, obviously YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm always releasing information there. You are now on my email list if you signed up for this webinar. So I send out really good campaigns every week, just different things to help you out. We're doing this huge sale, remember, for Black Friday. So definitely get the early bird or wait until Black Friday. Black Friday discounts will be automatic. You won't need an offer code. So if you want to wait till then, whatever. And I hope that you guys do really well on your exam. Be on the lookout for 5206 very soon. I just kind of finished the bulk of it. It needs to be edited and designed because my InDesigner makes it look all cool with all the graphics and everything. But yeah, so again, sorry about the technical difficulties in the beginning, but I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Kenya, Natty, Esmeralda. And will you provide the 5001 study guide? We have 5001 study guide on our website. You can find it there. All right, guys, listen, have an awesome weekend. Be on the lookout for the email. I'm about to send it to you now, and I hope you have an awesome day. Bye.